okay, we wanted you to sit with with others in your content area because we're gonna actually do a little brainstorming today, with the two maps that we're gonna show you, circle and bubble, double bubble. That's fun to say. We just wanna say this, and please refrain from any pessimism today because you're getting approximately $250 for being here today. So let's just have fun, make it light and easy. And if you have a lot of complaints, tell Jamie. We just don't want to hear all the complaints because we've seen nothing but good in thinking maps. And I think you will too once you get to know how to do them. And I apologize for you people that are hearing it over again. You know. But yeah, they're our experts and they're going to go around and help you guys that this is new for. Okay, you can take it.
Thank you. Okay, so as we said many times, this is our 301 professional development. So the first question is, what are thinking maps? And you can see that there are actually 8 of them. We're only going to teach 2 of them today. Batteries are dead. Okay.
Let me turn it for you.
Okay, so what are thinking maps? Thinking maps is a language of 8 visual patterns that are based on a fundamental thinking process. These patterns are used individually and in combination across every grade level and curriculum as integrated set of tools for lifelong learning. So a lot of people ask, well, why do we have to use just these 8? And in just a second you'll see what the 8 cognitive skills are. But the reason that these are effective is because every time that you use a graphic organizer, you're having to teach that graphic organizer. The idea here is that if we have everyone teaching the same thinking process, then there's really only 8 that they really have to think about, and eventually they can figure out how to use these maps on their own. Okay, so this is basically what thinking maps are all about. Like we said, they are based on visual patterns, which we'll look at in a minute. They're based on 8 cognitive skills like defining, describing, comparing and contrasting, showing relationships. The nice thing about thinking maps is that they can be applied in all content areas, even in math. And math people, I have a nice little thing for you that I'll give to you in a little bit. They can be used by all teachers, and then eventually they can be used in combination, and you can go really deep and complex, but we're not going to worry about that today.
And just can I
Go
tell you,
ahead, jump in.
There is a piece of paper that I'd love to show all you. I should have made a copy of it, but it really tells you how much, when you use these maps, how many Common Core standards you're touching on. You touch on a lot, and you might not know you're doing it, and you're maybe struggling to find something to fit that certain standard, but these maps, you can touch on a lot of them with it. And I know that makes you feel better that you know, if you know what they are. So I'll try to get that sheet to all of you and put it in your mailbox, because it's very it's a very good sheet, very good information on it. It's just we need a new clicker, period. Didn't it mark on my bill? It's all right. Mouse.
Okay.
Click.
Don's my mouse. Okay, so why do they work? As we know, our ability to learn visually is greater than any of our other senses. 80% of all information that comes into our brains is visual. They provide a common visual language in classrooms and whole schools. When we think about, memories, what do we see? Pictures, exactly. What's the example with the elephant that they gave us? I can't remember. What was that? Does anyone remember that went to the training? Remember she talks about something and she says something about an elephant, and then a little visual people. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to transfer or give this over to Trisha. She is going to introduce the circle map.
Okay, so this is one of the first maps we're going to have you guys do, and the circle map is really a great tool. I use it a lot when I introduce a unit, because what you would do is you can define words or concepts based on either the current context or current content that you're studying, or you can assess like their prior knowledge before you even get started. So like today in class, we started learning a little bit about atoms, so they just started off right away with a circle map. So they started with the atom, and they wrote the word atom, put a circle around it, and then they just wrote down, to give a 3-minute timeline, all the things that they could think about, or that they knew prior about atoms. And then they form a circle around the outside of that, kind of close it in. And then from there, what we do is anytime we start a content with a circle map, we come back to it when we learn some new information, and I give them a few minutes to add to it. So pretty soon, by the end of the content, that circle, even though we've already kind of closed it in, which you shouldn't, it's really full. And it's kind of cool, because they'll make comments like, man, I learned a lot about atoms, or I learned a lot about matter. You can put an essential question in there, and then they can just, do a little prior before, and then by the end of it, it gets pretty amazing. So brainstorming ideas and thoughts about a topic is a great way to start with it. So what we do, if you're using the thinking maps, we try to give them a list of keywords or terms that might start them thinking about the kind of thinking they're going to need to do with it. So context clues, list, define, tell everything you know, brainstorm, identify, relate prior knowledge, explore the meaning, associate, generate, discuss. So any of those terms, that's what they're talking about, the 8 cognitive processes. This is one of them, and these key terms kind of get them thinking in that manner. So we have these up on our walls by some of our like maps.
And also you can see that some of these words are similar to those DOK keywords that we talk about a lot as well.
So what we're going to have you do is everybody get their own.
Yeah, everybody should have a piece of paper. Yeah, their own piece of paper. If you don't have enough at your table, just raise your hand and I will bring around.
And something to write with, we put some markers there, and you just use a pencil to add it.
But for those artsy people that like color. No, yeah. If you have already been through the training, you're not doing this. You're walking around. Sorry. Yeah, you're the expert. So Art, you're not doing this. Unless you really want to do a circle map. Okay. Anyone need paper?
I can tell. I'll go dark with you. Yeah. Would you like a dark color or going dark?
Oh, you want me to do it all?
Oh, no, I was just waiting to see.
I don't know. I just grabbed a marker. I don't see anything else. You see mark? Just put yes.
That's what I mean.
You can have your back.
Okay, so tell right there.
I'm sorry. No, but I could do a play with it, so I didn't do it. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and start this in your paper. Go ahead and write your name. Don't put a circle on, just write your name first. No circles. One thing you gotta get comfortable with thinking maps is you do the writing before you kind of close it in, because that limits their thoughts once you close it. So just write your name. And then put a circle around your name, just a small circle around your name.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, you OCD people.
Someone else will be wearing a blue marker.
Okay, so then the next thing you're going to do, if you take a look up here, do not put that outer circle.
No.
Never close your thoughts in. That's what I tell my kids. You never want to close in your thoughts. You want to leave them open. So what you're going to do is on the outside of the circle that you put around your name, I want you to just come up with as many things as you can about yourself that tell us about yourself. Do not close it off with the outer circle. Start writing about yourself, some things about yourself around your name.
You can make it a cloud on purpose.
And it can be, and it can be any part of speech too. So like you can have adjectives that describe you, or you can have nouns that tell who you are, or actions that tell what you do.
With just one word?
No, it can be, if you wanna write a phrase, that's fine, like,
Mama
eating
free.
pizza. Mama what? Oh, Mama 3, yeah, that's fine, yeah.
There's a white.
What? What is it? Salt and pepper. I like that. Put Barbie clothes. Okay, Cal, you're a teacher. I'm a teacher, I'm not a student.
You introduce the home state stuff to us.
Look at Lisa.
Introduce us to the home teacher.
Sí, ese de acuerdo.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going something up the match
Something that's about you and then love body.
That's a lot about you.
It's supposed to be personal.
This is out of control.
You put your religion there.
Are you out of control?
That's right.
And control. Are you a mother? I work best in the morning.
Seeking other. Seeking,
Not morning
seeking other.
Starting your hair.
I am.
You're not seeking, now you're touching.
Yep, it did. See, it worked.
Oh, is that See, one of those touchy-feely ones. That's a controller setting. Remember they said that in our training? Yeah, don't touch them. Every time I like go near a child, I'm like, don't touch them. Like, I'm afraid to touch children.
Doesn't have to be quiet in here. You're allowed to talk. Oh. Math, you're rocking out. Barbie clothes.
Where I saw it, I usually don't make a video.
You don't even have to write in a circle shape if you don't want to.
It just kind of happened that way. I just keep going around.
Okay, you can do that if you want. But you can do it all over the place. You can even write upside down sometimes if you want to.
Oh wow. I think I better put OCD on there.
How you doing, Art? How you doing? That's fine. I smashed it.
He's mad at the girls. They didn't play really well, and that's how he took it out of them.
That's right.
Volleyball game. Missed a couple serves. Big whoop.
Actually, the girls had in there. The girls moved it the other way.
That's right.
Yeah, his hand.
Yeah, no, okay, tell them then that they have to move the, I didn't know they were. Oh, you're gonna go, I know, you're gonna talk about the whole extraordinary story about how.
Okay, so once you feel like you've kind of drained your mind, you can go ahead and now put the outer circle around it.
It doesn't have to be a circle. It can be a cloud.
That's true.
You're so
I
free,
think you should
Heather.
try a cloud. That way you don't have to worry about it.
We have lots of people that help.
Clouds are never perfect. That's right.
More math paper.
Why is it kind of circumvented? We can do
That's
clouds.
not well.
See, it's bugging me. You couldn't do a cloud, could you? Right, see, for OCD.
And like Heather said, it doesn't have to be a circle. You can make it into a cloud, but you know,
It's like ready. You know,
for those, you know, that,
it's very emphatic. Is that a word?
yeah.
This is pretty easy for him to talk about himself. He's probably really hard sometimes.
Okay. So when you do your thinking maps, we usually wrap it up with drawing what's called a frame of reference. And there's different frames of references. One of them is just kind of revealing your sources of where you get your knowledge from. One source, or one type of frame reference kind of relates to the main influence or the point of view that your information is coming from. And then a third frame of reference deals with just the importance of it. So why is this information important for us to learn or to know? So in this case, when it's about yourself, your frame of reference is going to be about, you're going to give credit to, in other words, on the outside of your circle within a square, people or things that have influenced you and made you who you are. So this is all about you, so now you're gonna credit or frame the people or things that have influenced you. So go ahead and think a little bit about that. So you're gonna put
every
the
time you do
square
it,
major
you put the
influences,
square around it.
people,
And they
things.
call it frame of reference, so like
No,
the
this is
reference for
afterwards.
you is
So
like the
you
people that help
created
you.
your circle, now you're gonna
ladies
put.
first?
No, it's just a frame around your mouth. And then it's and then like
Well,
usually if like the kids are creating it, it's whatever influenced what they put in here. So since you're writing about yourself, it's what influenced you.
the thing that's important is that every map has to have a frame, okay? And do not let your students say, well, the edge of the paper is my frame, okay? They have to draw the frame. And what's funny is after a while, like this week, I was showing a brace map to my students to help them organize their paragraph. And one of my students was like, Ms. Bishop, yeah, you don't have a frame. And he was right, I had totally forgotten to frame it, and I was like, oh, but do you know how good I felt? I was like, oh my god, baby, it's 4:30. Okay, so, you've got your frame, and then inside, you're going to put people or things that have influenced you.
Crystal, you look disturbed by this. So it's called a frame of reference. Everything you put out here is supposed to reference. Everything you put in here is supposed to reference. So if like if they wrote came from a textbook, if what they put in here came from their head, then outside the box,
Well, you're right.
like could be that your parents was your reference for that, and they want that influence. So that's why it's called a frame of reference. It's like whatever reference is. This is the reference of the
Can't concentrate on brainstorming.
How about we drew the buckets?
He's saying that he feels closed in. He doesn't okay. His OCD is he's feeling uncomfortable with this process and he should be able to express and walk through expressive.
That's too late.
Oh, okay.
Now, have you forgotten?
I can tell you, one way that you know that you've kind of reached your students is like the beginning of the school year, all their frame references listed all their former teachers. I was never on them. Like, really? We just talked about that. And then finally I'm like, Miss Cohn, I'm like, yeah, I'm in one frame of reference. So now that I'm really their official teacher, I'm actually in quite a few of their frames, but it took me a while to grow there. And I said, really? Miss Kanslider was in quite a few at the beginning of the year. I had one of her students and Miss Kanslider. It was cool. It's cool to see. Makes them think, you know, they're thinking.
It is, that's true. And then at the high school, it was neat, I saw a lot of, your names, because I have ninth graders, so it was neat to see a lot of your
See
names.
that transition kind of, yeah.
We're just gonna show you one that's completed, and this is Rachel. Well, that's because I've got the animation wrong, okay? It's the PowerPoint, Mr. Whalen. Listen, no, that's good. I played with this thing forever. Sorry.
Do you really have 3 kids?
Yeah.
There's 3 kids.
Yeah, she has 3 kidneys. She's weird.
Is the idea of a frame of reference to help them, so as I see this being used in content areas, is the idea of the frame of reference that they start like being more aware of citing sources and where they're getting text evidence from?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why thinking maps are a tool to write more effectively.
The other thing I think it creates is that awareness of where they're getting.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of the thinking maps is that there's patterns in our thoughts and that our it's tapping into the kids' metacognition. So as they're learning the patterns of the map, they're also thinking, well, where do I see patterns and where I get my information sources from? So it taps into that metacognition.
And think too, if you go to the Thinking Maps training, they give you this big book, and it has some great frame of reference questions in there that you can use. It's not always about just the source, but how, taking that information and answering a question that the teacher wants you to gain from the way you know, the map, so, the information in the map.
That can be a hard thing to get to with them, and I
Yeah.
see it happening at different stages and processes. So if you start using circle maps and you're like, I'm not sure about that frame of reference, that's okay. You know, the idea is to start with the content or the idea, and then get them using it, brainstorming it, drawing that circle around it, and then if you don't get to the frame of reference till the next time you try it, that's okay.
Well, when you teach it, when you follow the way the book tells you how to teach it, I think the first day they didn't put the frame of reference, but the second day they did, and they want them to learn it. But I know a lot of us, or you know, and even when we had the meeting up with the elementary teachers a couple weeks ago with Brad, Brad and I taught that. A lot of the teachers wasn't even showing the frame of reference at that point because it is a little bit harder for them to grasp that and understand that. So I don't know if to say that's right or wrong, but that's what they were doing because they knew their students, they knew they couldn't get it. But I feel like at this level, and if they're starting in the elementary, eventually when they get up here, we won't have to worry, they'll know by then, so.
I also think too, the deeper you go with the maps, I'm learning as I'm using them more, and the more complex my kids are making them, the more clear the frame of reference becomes even to me. Because my thinking kind of evolves with their mapping. So sometimes I'll even change gears, like before, when I think what my frame of reference is, and then when I see the work that they put out there, I actually change my frame. Just by seeing the depth that they're getting into, because it becomes a whole different frame. And that's just, it's hard to understand until you see them get real complex with them, and then it's pretty crazy. It's pretty neat. As you can tell, I wasn't part of this putting it together, so I'm like, all right. So with your fellow teachers, please take a moment to come up with ideas where you could use the circle map in your content area.
It's like an outline.
Come up with talking about the mile. Ideas that you can use it.
Yeah.
Or just put the word mile there and just have, some kids only have 4 miles.
We could act it out. One kid could be the mile.
I was thinking what we just did today of and if they said I'm probably going to do awesome.
There you go. That'll work. Let's see what kids know. So then they'll get that frame of reference right there.
Well, and the thing is, today when we talked about how we're doing Google Note we did some PowerPoint slides on Farewell and Sense and those things. So they will have a frame of reference already for today for building the vocabulary. So when they get to study terrorism tomorrow, they
Become the English, so you have to use that with the other trouble with work.
Oh, yeah. The set time. Oh, okay.
You know, like the person who's making lessons.
And those kids that have those
But we couldn't, well, I thought you meant
have done this already.
I thought you meant we had them
So
made
it's something that they know about.
these, and I think that it's important for the kids to be coming up with them as we're going through, so we wouldn't be able to write those down in name tags until they say that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But this would be a good project for them to do and turn into packets all the time. Tell her to do a circle map for a mile run or a badminton or a basketball.
And something to think about, you don't always have to include words. It can be pictures.
well, they could
It can
even
be symbols. It doesn't have to be words all the time. If you got kids that like to draw,
do a before and after.
I'm saying
We're talking about acting
we'll
it
make
out.
a class
Actually
circle.
pick a kid to be the mile. So put name tags, big name tag, same mile. And then every time the kid comes up with something, you give them a name tag and they'll put 4 laps.
Pace.
Pace.
That it's a mobile.
Yes, it's interacting.
We could use ropes.
For the bus.
Tie ropes around their waist.
Just circle them together.
Or we could just, but no, we could use the Thundercats as the main circle, and then we could take away this circle, and then we
And
could do
basketball
cones.
court, that's good, basketball court.
There you go.
Good job, guys.
We got it. We got it.
I didn't put sushi in there. I think that's important. I mean, we get in the
Put what?
food, so it's much.
Yeah, that was good.
We didn't put
Like
it.
with your
We put
younger
sushi.
kids,
We had sushi
or
in
like your
it.
ELL
We usually go to
kids,
sushi together,
special ed
but
kids,
lobsters
and
and
then,
sushi.
you know, just your kids that likes to draw, you can easily, include pictures like Trisha was saying. This one, obviously is from a younger grade. And you can see the frame kind of, it's in green, and then you can see that, the frame of reference for this one was, a book that they had read called, Safety Around Fire. So this easily could be, you could use this for a formative assessment to see what did my students learn after reading that book.
So they did it after the book.
Uh-huh, yeah. Here's another one, a little bit older, and he included some pictures. He put himself in the middle, which is kind of fun for kids, especially then when they want to present it, and the things that define who he is, you know, movies, Nintendo, soccer, and then, it's kind of hard to see his frame, but you can see what influenced the frame: coach, friends, computers, family, teachers. Oh, Mexico, and I'm like, what? Teachers. Okay. All right. So before we move on to the double bubble, are there any questions about the circle map before we move on? The thing to remember about the circle map is that you are defining. Okay, that's the job of the cognitive skill, is that you are defining the topic when you're
Rachel.
using the circle map. Yes.
We have a question.
Okay.
You know, when we come to these kind of meetings, we always have to try to find a way to invent it, kind of reinvent it for our setting, the PE setting, being more active and moving. So we come up with that we would actually have this be acted out in our class.
A group circle
A
map.
group circle map. So you pick a student, say we're talking about the mile. You pick a student, he or she wear a sign that says a mile and be in the center like where the Thundercat sign is. And then we'd have rope going around after we have kids raise their hands, and then they can say, you know, 4 laps, pace, breathing. And every time they say a word, they get a sticker, and they'll wear that sticker that says that word. And then we'll use the basketball court for the reference.
Because we have the small circle, then you have the bigger outer circle, and the court is the
Yeah.
frame. Is there any reason you couldn't do that?
Absolutely not. And then what I would do is I take a picture of it,
That'd be cool.
because, and then your students could, you know, view it afterwards. I think that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you get on the ceiling and take a picture? Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can just
Just
climb
climb
up.
up on top of the
Should be right over that front.
Okay.
B-hole.
Huh?
Second floor B-hole. You can see right out onto the basketball court.
What?
We'll get it.
They'll figure it out. It's all
We'll
right.
get
But
it.
yes, no, I think that's an excellent
We're trying to, you know.
transfer.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Beautiful. Any others? Okay. All right, so the second map that we're going to teach you today is called the double bubble. There is
Let's see
actually
what we
one
can do with
called the
this.
bubble. But we're going to teach you about the double bubble first. The double bubble, the cognitive skill with the double bubble is comparing and contrasting. A lot of you are going to look at this and think, oh, that looks a lot like a Venn diagram. And it kind of does. But we're going to show you why the double bubble is so much more amazing. Okay, so obviously if the keywords are going to be things like comparing, contrasting, similarities, differences, distinguish between, differentiate. Those are the keywords that you would use or you would ask your students when you're teaching this.
Let me see. Oh, here's some examples.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm on it. I'm on it. Okay, so here they've been asked to compare and contrast the United States flag with the flag of Mexico. And you will notice that they've actually incorporated color, which is also very effective. And so everything that is about just the flag of the United States is off to the left in blue. Anything that represents the flag of Mexico, thank you, Don, is off to the right in green. similarities between the two are in red in the middle. Now, this is why the double bubble is so much more amazing than the Venn diagram. If you notice, I have 3 characteristics of the United States flag on the left. Then you'll notice that I have 5 characteristics of the Mexican flag on the right. If I had given my student the typical Venn diagram, he or she may have been limited with that area on the right and may not have been able to list all of those 5 ideas. Is that making sense? Is that kind of connecting? Okay, because a lot of times we give them the Venn diagram, but they're limited to the area where they can list what they know. And for example, this person knew a lot about the flag of Mexico, but that Venn diagram may have shortened it, and they may have felt the need to just list like 3 things. Same thing with that middle area there. That middle area in the Venn diagram is typically so narrow. And when we do that, we're basically just telling the students, I just want the minimum. With the double bubble, they can just make it go much more extensive. Okay, next one, please. Here's another example between soccer and basketball. Once again, the similarities are going to be in the middle, and then the differences are going to be off to the sides. This person, again, has used color, and what's kind of interesting is they did it by the actions. You can see like dribble with hands, dribble to move ball, dribble with feet, all in orange. Play on a court, or play on court in or out. Play on a field, they have that in blue. They've got the different types of passes they have in green. So you can see how eventually, if you wanted to, you could incorporate color, and it goes back to that visual help, where the students then can say, oh, well, if I was going to write a paragraph, then all of my orange are going to be one paragraph. All of my green are going to be the next paragraph. All of my blue, and so on. So it's really nice for students to be able to see that. Here's another one. Just another example. Okay, so then you can just turn over your paper, or if you really want a new piece of paper, I can give you another new piece of paper. Because if you use marker, it may have not bled through. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a double bubble map that shows similarities and differences between you and a partner at your table. Okay, can you go to the next slide just to show like ours? So here's an example of a double bubble of Dawn and me. So you can see that we're similar in the fact that we're married, we're both teachers, we have children, but you can see that we also come from 2 different worlds.
Because I'm from Louisiana.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Now, I have to say that once again, when they give us the thinking maps, this is like what this is kind of like their go-to sample. But one thing that they suggest over and over again is that you never give your students like a template like this, okay? Because this goes, once again, it goes back to the fact that you're limiting the students. So if I was to give my students a template that was empty and just had those empty circles, then I'm limiting my students to just 3 details, you know, per area. Yes?
I kind of feel limited by the paper. Can you like break out the glue and the stapler and stuff and like
Yep.
start?
Absolutely.
I use larger construction paper for
Absolutely.
Perfect, it gets bigger and bigger.
Yep.
That's the
Yeah.
difference.
We felt like
If you go to the gym, you can use the whole thing.
No, absolutely, Jeff. I think that's a wonderful idea. Yeah. Okay, so then once you and your partner have created a double bubble map, then you've created your frame of reference is, what do I know now that clarifies my thinking about these 2 people?
And that, our answer was at the bottom, she already said.
Okay.
Get to that later.
Good.
Okay, so double bubble.
We are both. Karen?
That's gonna be your frame of reference. So double bubble.
Write first and then draw. Yeah, perfect.
What's your favorite food?
Oh, is he doing that? Very nice. I like that. Do you have a partner? Josh is being the scribe. And he's determining what to do at school with your kids. His department member? Yes. Looks like it. You write her
Favorite? Dog, I guess.
Okay. Hobby. Regular.
You can use your circle mat to look at each We're blind.
Wow, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank here. What's your... How many kids do you have?
That's the big thing about these two.
Yeah.
Vision is special.
I have a son and a daughter.
That's cute.
My mom.
They don't like me.
And she can help with cholesterol.
I'm divorced.
I'm still
You're
stuck.
married.
Or like have a picture.
I want to be the picture for Sarah.
But these double nails, well, they're good. You can do it like, well, that's what I always do. What's this say?
I go to my son's in California.
Really? Really? So you do the double extreme?
Put something
It's hard to extreme. Every time when I go to the coupons or Sunday, there's never anything I want. Yeah. Oh, really? You get that delivered to you. Maybe different.
This would be harder to do. Still doable.
The sports, games.
They could be holding the person in the jump rope to the stand inside hoops. They could just stand inside hoops and have the jump rope come in. She said, okay, go get a hoop, we'll have so many.
That works. Nice. Good job.
I really think it would be kind of to just finish your time.
Yeah.
Like beach volleyball versus regular volleyball. Beach volleyball.
Just keep in mind that if this
We're lucky they're from there in volleyball. And you gotta understand it's gonna get worse. We're gonna have 12 weeks of TV. And we had come in already. So telling them we're gonna have to go back to basics. They can't just come in and kind of assume that they know enough to play more.
Alright, so then my favorite thing to do with the ball maps is make the colors.
So you see the
And I always tell my students to color with intention. So like, if you do like single is the same category as married. It's just a difference. You can put those two in one color. And then like short hair versus like long hair. And then later if you make them write these in sentences, they can be like, oh, that's one sentence, that's another sentence. Miss Kimberly has this kind of hair, but Miss Shirley has this. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good job. I teach English, I teach Zoom. We're gonna do this. So I like this. So yeah. So it's an option. You don't have to do it that way, but like if the kids are gonna write later, it's helpful.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it, but it's like a second option.
Well, that's a good idea. Thank you.
And I don't do the colors because my kids are out of control.
It's just an option that you would need.
Putting
So we
colors
put
on their dress
family-
would just
All in black. We'll do the family related ones. These are family related ones.
Okay.
Jason's coming
I can love all this stuff.
That we have parents.
Yeah.
And how do I read my students?
That's our job. Our job is better
How do I
than
know
we already use black. It makes us blue.
To help them like build sentences, I make them color coordinates. So like married versus not married.
She's super time with us.
So they can like do, but that's an option. Neither one of these are wrong. They're just two different ways to do it. Like all the similarities,
Nice.
or
What do you teach?
Language
so
arts.
you can choose kind of like what you want. If you want your students to build it like that and have them color it like that, that's up to you. Does that make sense?
Probably should be pausing it while we're doing this because we haven't got so much far with our time.
Really?
Yeah. Because there was only, he said that there was only
Get this?
Do we have any volunteers that would like to share their double bubble?
Let it go.
we're doing a thing with our first.
Mr. Port, I know that you have a pretty nice one.
I do have a nice one.
Would you share?
Yeah. My partner is Rebecca.
Okay.
The things that we share is we have the same annoyances. We both wear corrective lenses, even though I'm wearing contacts. We're both teachers. We're both certifiable. We both have gray hair. Mine's short though. We're both married. We both have dogs. And we're both born in California.
Oh.
Our difference is that she's a girl, I'm a boy. She teaches computers, I teach art. She wears nice clothes and I wear dirty clothes. She has a respect for Brad but would not take him home, where I love Brad and would take him home. And she likes blue ducks and I eat blue ducks.
Okay, and did you get an opportunity to write a frame of reference?
No, we can do that right now though.
Okay.
Just give me a
This was it.
minute. Oh, okay.
What do I know now?
These two people are the same in their professions, but their personal lives are just a little different.
I like that.
That's what I would have said.
Very
too.
nice. 2 claps? Very nice. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to share? Okay, so brainstorming time. Just like we did with the circle map, we'd like for you to think about places in your curriculum or your content where you could incorporate a double bubble thinking map. So with the people in your group. So where do you do comparing and contrasting in your content? Where do you compare and contrast?
Comes up in my book all the time.
Where do you ask your students to identify similarities and differences?
Yes, most of them are doing hardware.
So I guess it's been broken up into like it says in
This is a laptop versus a desktop. This is a tablet. Is there a way to make a three-way one, or is there a different level?
And I do have some math.
Yeah, that was good.
Yep.
Anything on the portrait them how
Yeah,
to do?
but yes, they can absolutely. This is called the flow map.
PowerPoint versus
And except for Larry, because Larry doesn't know anything about it. Well, he does, but anyways, no, you will anyway. The thing is that you just have to have those arrows pointing,
where you want to be. Yeah, you can usually go up and down.
End up on one side or the other.
But that's okay, too, because even in their writing, there's a lot, you know, different ways of writing.
Oh, we could do
it compared.
sport, like tennis, badminton.
Well, we could do that because we
We
were.
use hula hoops.
We'd use hula hoops and put jump ropes to connect the loops.
You like it?
You know, the kids.
I taught the bowling program for 5 years, and I had to incorporate activities into remotely teaching, so when we do a lot of these things, it's got to be movable and more visual.
Even Lisa's idea was we could cover the gym floor with it and just let them go nuts.
I mean, just give kids chunk of the.
Well, she was saying 6 people to a group.
The bulletin board paper and stick it on the set of markers and stuff.
So, that's kinesiology, what is it called? Kinesthetic. Kinesthetic, yeah.
Physiology is the study of muscles.
Okay, well, I was close. Not really.
If we did a group work.
And then Lisa said they could even have them like 50
I think they would respond better to the movable
What if you have,
versus the writing one.
Right, and PE.
That's why we're thinking.
Well, what if you have just like a secretary? So they're building it, but then that person's drawing.
Yes.
So like your people are all around for the bulletin boards, and when they go in there, then that person's drawing it, and then you have to just stick it on the wall. So they're all running around with their hula hoops, and whoever.
Thank you, we have a stride.
There you go.
And then there's somebody who can be helping the scribe in case they forget things. Kind of like we did for our
So we
social
can't,
contract.
if they can't handle being on the end of the leash or hula hoop.
Or if they have a note that says they stubbed their toe and they can't repeat.
They can use a scribe and the scribe is the secretary. Secretary would have instructions.
We had a kid today who always doing basketball. The kid that threw the ball and hit the kid in the face.
There's 2 boys moving forward, and one kid here and here at the ball, and this other kid moved in front of the kid and so it's almost like a and the kid is hurt, just took himself back. This was for
I said the final one, and at that point, Jamie says his definition of was much different. I said, it's a long time for you guys. I said, it's a long time for you, but an hour and a half.
I was going to say, like, period 2, since we haven't got period 3.
You know, we should.
What's the difference between thinking maps and graphic organizers? And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but here's a double bubble that gives reasons why they are different. And so first of all, let's just look at how they're similar. Yes, they're both visual. They are both concrete patterns. They're both highly successful, and they are useful for teaching as well as assessment. But you can see that the ways that they are different up at the top. Graphic organizers are based on isolated tasks, where thinking maps are based on those fundamental thinking skills, those 8 cognitive skills. Graphic organizers, there's going to be inconsistency as far as the organizers from classroom to classroom, whereas with the thinking maps, there's that consistent visual language for the school. The students are only having to use those 8 maps as opposed opposed to, you know, a different type of map for a different type of class versus a different type of teacher. Graphic organizers are usually static forms, and they're typically used alone. Whereas we saw just from today, we can use our thinking maps together. Hopefully you saw the connection between your circle map, where you defined yourself, and then how you use that to make a compare and contrast between your partner and you. So these are flexible, and they can be used in combination. Graphic organizers are typically difficult for transferring across disciplines, whereas thinking maps are easily transferred across disciplines. Like we said, you can use each one of these maps in every content area. Graphic organizers, this is a big one too, is they're usually text or teacher centered, whereas your thinking maps are student centered, and that's really key there, because the student is generating the map. Like we said, if you give them a template and you only have 3 bubbles on one side, then you have really limited what your student can do. You're not really helping them. Whereas if you let the student create the thinking map, then, you know, it's limitless as far as where they can go with their thinking. It's also helpful for cooperative learning. Yes, sir.
Is this just a district thing or is it a state thing? Because I have seen on state tests before where we'll ask, what would be the best tool for comparing and contrasting these two passages? And it'll be like KWL chart, Venn diagram, and so forth. And if we're completely getting rid of that stuff, then they're not really, I mean, I'm worried that they won't be prepared.
Right. It is just a district thing as far as I know right now. I know that a lot of schools in Arizona are moving towards thinking maps.
That's a good question.
And no, it's a very good question, and if we had more time, we can go more into this. But they actually show a way that you can do the double bubble and then incorporate a Venn diagram around it so that the kids can see that and address what you're talking about. Because like you said, they might come across a state test, you know, college entrance test that, you know, we can't just throw the Venn diagram out. I know what you're saying, you know. So if you would like to look at that, you know, just let me know. Give you some more information on that.
Could you use the term Venn diagram as a synonym for double bubble? I mean, could you do something like that, or have it be in their thinking?
I think I would go back to what is the purpose of the map, comparing and contrasting. What is the purpose of a Venn diagram? Comparing and contrasting. That's what I would, and because I'm hoping that those tests are going to hopefully put what's the best, you know, graphic organizer for comparing and contrasting or showing similarities and differences. I mean, if we're moving towards that, you know, tier 2, then they should be including those, because compare and contrast, that's a tier 2 vocabulary. So that's what I would emphasize. I appreciate that question.
And then one more real quick one.
Yeah,
At the bottom of this, you said we have to have our frame of reference, and that's where we summarize what all of this means.
Well, there's different frames of references, and we chose not to go into that today.
Oh, okay.
As far as really a lot of detail.
Okay.
I would say a lot of times when Dawn, help me.
Well, when I start off with frame of reference until you get really comfortable with it, I would just say, okay, where did I get this information from? What influenced my thinking here? And until you get really comfortable with it, and then in the book that you'll get, there are lots of different kinds of questions you can ask for frame of reference questions.
Okay.
And you know, I have gotten real comfortable with it, but in the beginning, all I would say is, what influenced your answers here? Who you know?
Okay.
And as you get better at it, you'll say, let me challenge her. You know, let me ask you a harder something to think about. So that's a good question.
Any others? And if we have sparked your interest today, then please come talk to one of us about thinking maps, or your fellow colleagues that are sitting at the tables with you as well, because they have been through the one-day training and